In a startling report, the FBI discovered a plot of land in Macon County, Alabama, was being used as a training ground to turn kids into terrorists. Pretty unlikely story, but I have Molly here to talk about it. Molly, this story, this was all discovered by accident. These folks were driving to New Mexico, right? They had a room, they had
like
the
that.
car full of people, full of kids. It overturned. The police officer that did the investigation found guns, found reason to investigate what was going on in Macon, Alabama. Tell me this story. It's a crazy story.
So it's a group of 5 individuals. They're family members, essentially. The main guy is Sarah Wahaj, and they're also connected to a compound, a similar type compound in New Mexico. So the one in Macon County, Alabama, is something like a military-style, sort of a makeshift obstacle course, if you will. And at that compound, they saw some training facilities, although no attack was ever carried out. But this Sarah Wahaj, his 2 sisters, his partner, and a couple of other people, they were actually living in New Mexico. So they were dividing their time. I'm not entirely sure the details there, how that worked out, but they ended up being arrested at the New Mexico compound in 2018 because they were looking for, police had gotten a tip that Wahaj's 3-year-old son, who'd been missing by his mother from Georgia, they'd gotten a tip through the grandfather, who's actually a leader of an imam in New York, and he's well known. And
it all ties up to the imam in New York.
Yes,
correct?
but he is dissing, if you will. He is not supporting what his son or his other children were doing. So he's saying now he's waiting for all the evidence to come out. There's a trial coming up on what they found, coming up in April on what they found.
Let's talk about that. What they found is a training camp for terrorists.
And it looks like they spent the majority of their time in New Mexico, but both of those facilities were being used for that. They found notes detailing what their attacks were. They wanted to attack schools. They wanted to attack law enforcement. They wanted to attack military. They even found text messages where they were putting out the word to others to say, hey, come join us if you're interested in committing deadly violent attacks, jihad, you name it. So it was clear that was their goal, but you do have some other strange twists to this
Well, let me put
case.
one of those twists. The people they were training were children.
They were
They were
kids.
training their own
11
kids. One
children.
child they found the remains of that obviously had been killed somehow.
That was the one that was reported missing.
Right.
Epilepsy. The dad took the child from the mom. He and the girlfriend were praying the devil out of this child instead of giving this child their seizure med.
Okay, but this the unique thing about this wasn't to train adults.
No.
This wasn't to train the imam
They were
in
training
New
those
York
kids, right.
to blow himself up.
No.
It's always train the kids to go blow the kids up. I'm going to sit back here and preach about the evil empire, and I'm going to send kids in to blow themselves up and kill infidels.
That's right.
So that's what was being. That's the unique thing about this. This is a little different from ISIS in many regards, where the training camps look different.
But the evilness is the same.
Oh no, the ugliness is the same. But this is particularly ugly in my mind because the focus was to train children.
That's right, because they were malleable.
Children as young as 8 years old to strap bombs on themselves, go into stores, go into schools, go into law enforcement.
Well, and military-style training to shoot as well. They were using these shooting ranges to do that. They were also malnourished. The entire living conditions were squalor, apparently. So they're facing federal charges of basically planning attacks on Americans, including law enforcement and military, as well as kidnapping related to the death of that little boy. And some firearms charges as well, because they did find a stockpile of weapons as well out in New Mexico. So they're still investigating
in other words,
connections.
The question is, are there more facilities like
Correct.
this that they're looking into?
Right.
Molly, thank you for joining me, okay?
Thanks, Pat.
This is an important message for our nation's veterans. If you served our country in the military between 2003 and 2015 and you suffered significant hearing loss, you might be entitled to compensation, because the hearing protection you were issued may be at fault for the damage you suffered, but you need to act now. Your time to make a claim might be limited. Learn more at levinlaw.com/earplugs.